recent months, the Mark III has been making a comeback, being overshadowed by its younger sibling with the 2JZ. We often forget that without the 7M, the 1JZ and 2JZ would not even exist. From the development of a 2000cc SOHC inline 6-cylinder to the evolution into a 3000cc DOHC 24-valve powerhouse, the 7M engine story is one that's firmly rooted in engineering excellence and practical performance. No need for grandiose comparisons, the 7M engine's legacy speaks for itself. The 7M-GTE engine is a hidden gem, often residing beneath the unassuming hood of the MK3 Supra. Its 7M-GTE heart deserves a closer look. It's an underrated performer in its own right, and its unassuming appearance belies the potent power plant that lies within. Sometimes it's the overlooked and humble ones that surprise us the most on the road and on the track. While it might not be the lightest or most agile option out there, it has a distinctive 80s styling that makes it stand out in a crowd. When you mention that you've got yourself a Supra, reactions might not always be what you expect, but the MK3 Supra's design has its own unique charm. In fact, some might even mistake it for a Ferrari at the gas station if they're not in the know. With its straight-six engine, clean lines, and rear-wheel drive platform, it's often hailed as the best Corvette that Japan ever made. The 7M-GTE, with its stock 232 horsepower, has enough power to let you slide around corners, and it has significant untapped potential in the tuning department, as we'll explore further. Despite some less than desirable factory issues, particularly a well-known flaw, don't let that deter you from considering this engine. Want to dive deeper into what the 7M-GTE has to offer? Let's explore its capabilities in more detail. Now let's dial down the exaggeration and explore the straightforward facts about the 7M-GTE engine. Produced by Toyota in the late 80s and early 90s, this inline-six 3-liter powerhouse generated a respectable 232 horsepower and 240 foot-pounds of torque, thanks in part to its CT26 turbocharger running at 6 psi. While these numbers might not seem earth-shattering by today's standards, it was more than competitive with the best offerings of the 80s. Toyota's M-Engine series had a remarkable run, spanning over 30 years from 1965, and the 7M-GTE marked the pinnacle of this lineage, being the final and most popular iteration. Unlike its predecessors, it embraced a dual overhead camshaft design and was among the pioneers in adopting electronic fuel injection. Constructed with a cast iron block and aluminum head, the 7M-GTE quickly caught the attention of the tuning community, revealing its untapped potential beyond Toyota's original intentions. While performance-oriented cars were not Toyota's primary focus in the 80s, with a presence primarily in the Toyota Supra and Toyota Soarer, the 7M-GTE remains a coveted engine option in the present day, especially thanks to the enduring popularity of the Supra. One of its standout features is the robust block, which opens up impressive tuning possibilities. While it was once common to see engine swaps favoring the 1JZ GTE, the tide has turned in favor of the 7M GTE, a shift we'll explore shortly. In reality, if you manage to find a reasonably priced 7M GTE with ambitious power goals in mind, you're likely to get exceptional value for your money. Simple breathing modifications can push performance numbers closer to the 300 horsepower mark. Assuming you start with a well-maintained engine that hasn't endured years of abuse, you can achieve even more with the right upgrades. Typical enhancements like improved intercoolers, fuel pumps, larger injectors, a sturdier head gasket, and enhanced airflow meters, coupled with meticulous tuning, can comfortably elevate the power output to around 400 HP. A healthy 7M GTE can readily provide a reliable daily driven setup boasting 450 HP with proper tuning. However, you'll encounter the limits of the stock CT26 turbocharger at approximately 14 psi. At this stage, upgrading to a more robust turbocharger becomes a consideration, with many owners reaching 500 to 550 horsepower on daily driven setups while still using the stock motor at 28 psi. Some even claim to have pushed it to 800 horsepower. However, it's wise to exercise caution if you want to safeguard the engine's longevity, which may entail upgrading internals, head gaskets, and studs before chasing astronomical power figures. Once the internals are reinforced, you can confidently explore power outputs exceeding 700 HP with the stock bottom end reliably. Thankfully, a wide range of internal components is readily available in the market, facilitating the realization of the 7M-GTE's full power potential. The cost-to-power ratio here is undeniably impressive, especially when compared to the more expensive 1JZ or 2JZ alternatives. While the 7M-GTE may not deliver colossal power gains with bolt-on mods alone, it is a cost-effective choice for those aiming to push the boundaries further. For those with deep pockets, it's worth noting that the current record power output from a 7 7M-GTE stands at a staggering 1,750 horsepower in a drag car. So if you're prepared to make a substantial investment, the potential for mind-bending power is undoubtedly within reach. In the past, it was common practice for owners to swap out their trusty 7M-GTE for 1JZ engines in pursuit of substantial power gains. However, the landscape is changing. The prices of 1JZ and 2JZ power plants are steadily rising, making them less justifiable from a cost perspective. If your power aspirations fall below the 700 HP mark, especially if you're aiming for below 500 horsepower, don't rush to dismiss the 7M-GTE just yet. In an era where the internet glorifies extreme power figures, remember that 400 to 500 HP is more than ample for street and track use. While the 1JZ and 2JZ engines have garnered a strong cult following, acquiring one now often involves competing with JDM enthusiasts willing to pay a premium for bragging rights. Meanwhile, the overlooked and budget-friendly 7M-GTE might be sitting unnoticed at your local junkyard, waiting for its untapped potential to be realized. Although the 7M may demand some initial attention and an investment in a rebuild to address Toyota's factory shortcomings, yes, we're looking at you, head gasket, it can yield an almost new engine with a bulletproof bottom end. If you snag a good deal, you might end up with a practically 0-mile 7M-GTE for the price of a 150,000-mile 1JZ or 2JZ. It's not that we're discouraging you from considering these alternatives, but we strongly advise you to run the numbers and weigh your options before making a decision that aligns with your goals. Of course, there are Toyota engine options worth exploring, such as the 1UZ-FE, 1MZ-FE, and 2GR-FE. If you're feeling adventurous, you might even contemplate LS engines, but be ready to face the disappointment of some purist pals. Now let's address the elephant in the room, the 7M-GTE's reliability and common issues. One notorious issue that plagued this engine was the universal head gasket problem on the turbo models, leading many owners to opt for the 1JZ GTE as a solution. This problem arose due to Toyota's use of asbestos in their head gaskets shortly before the 7M-GTE's launch, coinciding with the strict industry ban on asbestos products. The infamous head gasket problem in the 7M engine resulted in numerous failures, often wrongly attributed to rod knock. The actual culprit was the mixture of oil and coolant caused by the head gasket failure, leading to bearing damage. To address this issue, it's highly recommended to deck the head and block mating surfaces and install a metal head gasket paired with ARP head bolts. Once this fix is applied, the 7M-GTE becomes a reliable powerhouse, especially for those aimed at substantial power gains, provided it receives proper maintenance. There are numerous instances where these engines have endured over 300,000 miles of daily use, highlighting the importance of diligent upkeep. We've taken a comprehensive look at Toyota's 7M-GTE engine, and it's clear that this power plant deserves more recognition than it often receives. While it may have suffered from a reputation tainted by factory head gasket issues, recent changes in engine prices have put the 7M-GTE back in the spotlight. It might not be the trendiest choice or win you scene points, but if you come across an affordable 7M-GTE engine, you're in for an excellent bang for your buck setup, capable of delivering up to 500 horsepower without breaking the bank. If you decide to go the 7M-GTE route, a wise investment involves refreshing the internals with the rebuild, addressing the head gasket issues by decking the head and blocking mating surfaces, and fitting a metal head gasket and ARP head bolts. This overhaul will result in a fully revamped 7M-GTE that's potentially as good as new, all while costing you less than a high-mileage 1JZ or 2JZ. Despite its flaws, with the right care and attention, the 7M-GTE promises impressive power potential and long-term reliability. It's a contender in the realm of Japan's finest engines, holding its own against the likes of the RB25DET, SR20, and the K24. So if you're seeking an underrated gem in the world of performance engines, don't overlook the 7M-GTE.